tey nag mu nekk the week's ending edition su ko defee bi wax leen thank you very much for joining us this morning. Well, viewers, wherever you might be watching, it's good to be back here. It has been a while though, but thank you very much for joining us this morning. And of course, as always, we're gonna look at our studio stories, of course, discuss them at length, and some of the standing issues in and outside the country, as always we do. And once again, wherever you are around the globe, thank you for choosing us and for being with us again. We are getting into the weekend, and so we want to discuss some very interesting matters. And of course, we are going to start with matters of the ongoing hearings of the TRRC. And, as witnesses continue to appear before the commission to testify on different matters discussed before the commission. And of course, we also are going to talk about some other very pertinent issues in today's program. So once again, thank you for joining us. So, nañ waxtaane li nga xamante ne muy ci TRRC bi ak tamit yeneen yi nga xamante ne nañ ko waxtaane nañ am ay gan ñu dalal leen waxtaane ci ñi nga xamante ne ñu ngi si justice ñi nga xamante ne mooy migrants yi nga xamante ne daal coow li bari woon na si seen mbir ñu jàpp ne nguur gi fi nekkoon ci njiitali former président bi di Yahya Jammeh moom loxoon génnul ci li waraloon ñoom ñu rëy leen wala ñu jógee fii ak yu mel noonu ci kanam tuuti nañ leen dalal ñu waxtaane loolu. But first to matters of the TRRC, because a man called Abdul M. Dean has told the Truth Commission that he was informed that the former president, Yahya Jammeh, has sent his death squad, the junglers, to get him arrested in Bissau and put him in a bag of rice. Dean, a former principal budget officer, said the former accountant general Aliu Job was accused of being involved in an aborted coup plot in 2006, has mentioned him as introducing law to a marabo. Let's have more details of that in this report by Fatmata Kasim.
Abdul M. Dean didn't think Jammeh and his torture and death squads will get into him if the planned coup of March 2006 fails. But he said he was shocked that investigators into the fuel coup came looking for him.
So I was just thinking that if they arrest Aliu, we were just going to interrogate him and ask him his relationship with the people. And what they have, just to interview on those issues. If they are satisfied, maybe they can let him go. If not, maybe he can be going up and down, back and forth. I was hoping that by the time I returned from the meeting, there's a possibility that Ali could be released. But to imagine that during those investigations, they will go to the level of saying who is your marabu, to know who that marabu is, to go to the extent of how do you know this marabu? My name surfaces. So to be honest, with me and Allah, I was never scared because I didn't thought it was going to reach that level. It was just going to be contained within Allah and the military. The investigation was going to be confined to that level. But when I was giving this information at the meeting, like I said, that is when my world started crashing down. I know now I'm in trouble. Yes, Council.
Dean was in Dakar, the capital of neighboring Senegal, when an army chief by the name Colonel Ndour Cham attempted to overthrow the Yahya Jammeh dictatorship. The National Intelligence Agency could not get to him, so they seized 2 of his cars. Dean admitted to the Truth Commission on Tuesday that he knew that his actions in concealing a coup plot was a crime. However, he said at that time in 2006, he saw nothing wrong with what the coup plotters were doing because his friend was involved and he could not report him.
I understand at the time how I saw things. He was my friend. Just keeping secrets for him? No, that's wrong. I cannot go and report him. Add him into trouble. And myself into trouble. Trade the trust. when his people's plans failed, approached me for help, I went and helped. So I was just at the time, I just saw it. Someone who was keeping a secret for the friend. When things went bad for him, and his people approached me as a friend, as a confidant, I complied to help. You are right what you said.
In his closing testimony, Dean applauded the current government for making sure he is reinstated and given all that he deserves. For iAfrica News, I am Fatmata Kasim.
All right, thank you very much, Fatmata Kasim, with that report from the ongoing hearings, of course, of the TRRC and at its Dones Hotel in Senegambia. Of course, one of the witnesses there testifying yesterday before the commission. And from that report, we will move on to something else and talk about tourism, because the tourism minister, Ahmad N.K. Ba, is touring the country as we speak, and that's what we're going to talk about now. Now, the transformation of the North Bank region of the Gambia into attractive tourism area had been a top priority in President Barrow's government agenda. The region, with its cultural and historic values, had been neglected by previous governments. The country's tourism minister, Ahmad N.K. Ba, on Thursday led a powerful delegation from his ministry for a nationwide tour, visiting tourism installation across the country, with a visit to Barra and Brandon, where he visited ongoing construction of the Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara Hotel. Honorable Ba said decentralizing development would be reduce the high rate of urban migration in search for greener pasture in the youth folk. Now, Honorable Ahmad Ba also commits his ministry's willingness to revive the lost cultural and traditional values of the UNESCO's heritage sites in the Gambia, saying that those sites would be transformed into an attractive tourism and historic areas anytime soon. Now, let's take a listen to Honorable Ba in this insert.
To come, most people who have been going to Banjul to look for a job would not go to Banjul. I'm sure people will be crossing over to come down here to look for a job, because you have all the facility and the beauty of it, nature, everything that you have in Banjul is around here. What was missing really is the infrastructural development, and that now the Barrow regime is working on intensely. As you're aware that the Hakalang Road is one of the most important projects of this government, because we believe that it will make a great impact in the life of the people who live in this area and generally the Gambian people at large. So we are committed to that cause, and we will not leave any stone unturned in getting to achieving our objective in trying to promote rural and domestic tourism in this part of the country.
And altogether, how many sites are you expecting to visit?
Well,
all right, that's the tourism minister there, Ahmad N.K. Ba, speaking to journalists. And that's, you know, so of course, should I say, shortly after visiting one of the sites and all that, and as he's on a tour with the media. Now, joining me on the line to discuss more on the minister's tour is our team, of course, who are part of the delegation, and our very own Abdoulaye Mendy is now on the line. Abdoulaye, ñu ngi lay nuyu di la wax naka suba si ak tamit coono gi foofu lan lañ mën a jàpp jamono ji ci li nga xamante ne bu too bi nga xamante ne ministre bi door na ko démba fan ngeen dem ak tamit yëf yi naka la tëddee jamono ji.
jërëjëf Amadou Kanté ñu fay la ci nuyu bi tam sargal leen bu baax a baax alhamdulilah démb bi ñu préparé suñu dal mooy fii ci Alberta mooy comme ni nga ko waxee ci kàllaamay nasaraan moom jëwriñ bi di Amat Ba ànd na fi ak mbootaay bu takku bi nga xam ne ñu ngi bàyyeekoo ci 28 Stéphane mu di ci buntu jëwriñam pour wër réew mi dem ñenneeku ji yenn ci suñu bërëb yi nga xam ne nag ay bërëbu aada cosaan la di mbootaayu xeeti aada àddina bi banqaas bi saytu wàllu aada ak cosaan daal di tëral te réewi Gambie itam bàyyi ko xel bu baax a baax ñu gën cee xamee ci too bi nag li nga xam ne mooy bërëb bi ñu xamee ci foot bu leen ndax képp ci nga xam ne jàng nga fii ci biir réew mi nga dem si ndongo daara di nga dégg taalif yooyu muy jamono biñ doon jëndal jaay lii di suñuy maam ci yenn ci ay bërëb yooyu lañ tàmbalee lii di gane bi waaye itam ci bërëb boobu ñu gis ne am na nguuru Baro lam fa fas yéene def ñu di tabax fa ab hôtel bi nga xam ne dina ko tuddee dem si yàlla njiitu réew mi fi nekkoon ci njëlbeen muy Faa Dawda Kairaba Jawara liggéey yooyu nag tàmbali na te it mu ngi continuer di wéy jawriñ bi dem na ne nekku di liggéey yooyu laata ñuy dugg fort bu leen bañ duggee fort bu leen it gis nañ fàttaliku li nga xam ne it moo di jamono maam bind ya nga xam ne ñoom dinañ ko doon bind seen diggante ak lii di nasaraan yi waxtaan am na fa moom it am na li nga xam ne wax na ko ci mu di ci wàllu aada ak cosaan ndax bu ñu seetloo ba seet ñii di jàmminkas yi ak ñii di sonko yi ñoom bokk nañ ci ay buur ci ay jamono maam kon nag bokk na ci lenn ci seeni mandarga wala lenn ci ay mbir yi nga xam ne lañ leen gën a ràññee woon ne lañ doon jëfandikoo duñ ko mën a jotaatee ci yooyu di ay xeet yi nekk foofu ci biir ñoolu delloo si ko ci béréb boobu sax pour ëllëg ak xeet si biir ñu mën cee nekkali taalif jooju ndax ku ne mën cee teg ay bëtam ci jumtuwaay yooyu loolu doon na ay jéego yi nga xam ne moom nee na jëwriñam bi dina ko jël pour dox ko pour seet naka la ñoo sukkalee bërëb boobu dekkil ko buñ jógee foofu tam dem nañ ci crocodile pool bi nekk ci berem bi foofu it ab bërëb la di dex bi nga xam ne ay jëfit ñoo fa dëkk mu doon bërëb bi nga xam ne ci biir berem bi ci àll bi foofu tuuti la nekk diggée na ne tamit nguuru Baro bi dina war a fence foofu tam toppatoo fa ba nga xam ne dina dimbale ndaw ñi ci tund googu tam pour balaa ñoo jóg bi dem ci Congo bi wuti liggéey ci biir tund bi foofu dinañ am seen liggéey yi ñu fa mun a am te mu doon liggéey yi leen di njëriñ bu baax am
all right loolu am na solo comme ni nga ko waxee foog naa ne ci lim wax waaye tamit comme noo ko xamee xam na ne secteur yu bari ci mbas mi nga xamante ne mu ngi ci réew mi ba léegi waaye gis nañ ne tamit tourisme secteur bi moom laal na ko bu baax a baax tey ñoo xam tamit béréb yi nga xamante ne yu moo nemmeeku noonu ñu bari bu ñëwoon ci réew mi léegi-léegi dañ faa dem pour seet dem def fa visite tey ndax moom ministre bi àdduna ci yu mel noonu tamit yan jéego la ministre nguur gi jël pour gis ne wàññi nañ jafe-jafe yi ci ñi nga xamante ñoom ñoo nekk ci béréb yooyu.
waaw mooy lii mooy njëlbeeni fan too bi te gis nañ tam ne li nekk ci biir too bi yëpp mën nañ koo waxtaanee ci foot bi waaye li ci gën a siiw daal mooy jàpp nañ ne daal jóg bi nga xam ne moom Amat Bah jóg na ko ak ministre bi pour nemmeeku biir réew mi mooy pour gis yenn ci ay projet yi nga xam ne président Barrow tàmbali na ko wala bugg na koo tàmbali ci biir réew mi fii nii bu fekkee it ci wàllu mbas mi tamit amaana du ñàkk ci suñuy biir waxtaan yi dinañ ci waxtaan ak moom pour seet buntu jawrinam bi naka la ci mën a sukkalee koom-koomu néew ji doole ji rawatina ñi nga xam ne ñoom ñoo féete ci wàllu dem ak dikku tubaab yi te rek loolu nekk ci ron jawrin ci ron kilifteefam.
aca xam naa ne sedda bi moom bari na ci côté boobu yàggul ma fa jógee xam naa ci dara waaye balaa ñu laa bàyyi rek ndax suba teel la te tamit xam naa dina ngi waaj pour dem feneen démba ngeen fi jógee fan ngeen nekkagum ak tey fan ak fan ngeen war a dem ak tamit ci weekend bi yan activités yi nga xamante ne ministre bi loolu la war a def.
waaw démb biñ accès Albreda leen ñu di fanaan tey ñu ngi jógee ci Albreda pour suñ Kerewan foofu dinañ fa seet ci béréb bi nga xamee ci Kerewan ba Dalapat dinañ dem ci Adwak dinañ dem tam ci Mogan Kunda Camp boobu mu ngi ca Jajari village ci dëkki Jajari tey jii ba tey dinañ demit ci Moni Beret nekk ca Farafenni ci Farafenni it dinañ seeti Ibis Hotel Caaku Bantan Guest House Balangar Motel bi ak foofu ca Arafat tam dinañ fa dem ci biir Arafat laata ñuy dem ci Kawur Njaawur ak Kirbacci loolu mooy tey li nga xam ne moom mooy béréb yi ñu war a dem seeti.
ñu gërëm la bu baax sant la ngeen nekk ci jàmm ak team yi ngeen fa nekkal yëpp ñu ngi laa jaajëfal bu baax Abdoulaye Mendy ci taxawaay bi amatina solo di la wax jërëjëf. Thank you. That was our very own Abdoulaye Mende, of course, giving us latest updates on the ongoing ministerial tour. That is the tourism minister, nationwide tour, inspecting ongoing works and development of several, tourism sites within and around the country. And of course, our team right with the minister. So we will be rightly updating you as, we are back next week. On the same program inshallah su ko defee mu ngi noonu kon ni ngeen ko gisee ministre bi Amat Bah di tourism ministre moom moo yore wàllum tourisme bi mooy ak tamit culture bi mooy suñu aada ak cosaan jamono ji nag mu ngi wër réew mi yëpp pour nemmeeku yenn ci béréb yi nga xamante ne liggéey mu ngi faa dem wala ñu jéem a seet naka la ñoo dundalaate yenn ci béréb yooyu pour tamit ñu mun a dooleel li nga xamante ne mooy tourisme bi ndax xam ngeen ne loolu lu am solo la ci réew mi surtout ci nguur gi ñoom loolu bokk na si seen priorities comme ni ñu ko waxee su ko defee day am solo ministre bi dem di seet liggéey bi ak yëf yi tamit nu moo fu mu fa la toll ak nu moo doxee su ko defee dinañ ci dellusiwaat incha allah si yeneen jotaay ñu yaatal ko ak suñ team bi gannaaw buñ ko jaajëfalee beneen yoon moom Abdoulaye Mendy ak team bu mu àndal gannaaw loolu ñu wéy waxoon naa ko ci ndorte bi nañ àddu ci li nga xamante ne mooy ci migrants yi nga xamante ne mooy 2005 xam ngeen ne coow li bëri woon na surtout bu TRC bi commencé gis ne ñu bëri ñëw nañ wax ci loolu waaye am na benn ay nit ay mbootaay ñu jog sàkku li nga xamante ne mooy justice ci li nga xamante ne mooy ci li aju ci loolu nee nañ ne yëfi yàgg na waaye duñ ci sori nañ leen dalal ñu waxtaan ci loolu laata ñu dalal gaay rek foog ñu ànd ak report shortly on that te su ko defee ñu ñëw dalal leen ñu xuus ci waxtaan bi seet la la ñëw sàkku ci code bi ban code la ak ñan lañ yóbbu code boo leen ko bëgg a xamee ngeen taaxirlu tuuti rek ñu dalal leen inshallah. We'll move on now. As I mentioned at the beginning of the program that we will be talking about justice. We are talking about the West African migrants, as you may know, something that is not new to many of you watching, I want to believe. But first though, families of the West African migrants seeks to finally get justice after 15 years of disregard, neglect and political inaction. Now, but the West African Network Against Extrajudicial Killings and Enforced Disappearances has joined efforts with survivors and families of Ghanaian migrants and other West Africans to seek justice for their arbitrary killings in 2005. Now, Sohna Tunkara has more details of that in this report.
The African Network Against Extrajudicial Killings and Enforced Disappearance has filed complaints against the government of Ghana and the Gambia at the ECOWAS Court for infringing several international human rights, including the right to judicial remedies. The suit, which has the legal backing of the Salim Center for Law and Development and supported by the families of West African migrants killed in the Gambia in 2005, was filed on Wednesday, November 18. In July 2005, 44 Ghanaian migrants and 12 other West Africans from Nigeria, Senegal, Togo and Cote d'Ivoire were forcefully disappeared in the Gambia while on their way to Europe by sea. The group included 2 women, one of them reportedly pregnant. A Gambian national, Lamin Tunkara, purported to have been their smuggler, also suffered the same fate. The migrants were never heard from again except for one who managed to escape and alert authorities across the border in Senegal. In 2017, rights groups in Ghana and the Gambia joined forces with the sole survivor and families of those disappeared to campaign for those responsible to be tried, but their demands are not heeded. The West African migrants were murdered by the junglers, a death squad reporting directly to former President Yahya Jammeh, according to testimonies made at the Truth Commission. Yahya Jammeh's 22-year rule was marked by widespread abuses, including forced disappearance, extrajudicial killings, and arbitrary detention. He sought exile in Equatorial Guinea in January 2017 after losing the December 2016 presidential election to Adama Barrow. For iAfrica TV, Sohna Tunkara.
All right, thank you very much, Sohna Tunkara there with that report. And like I said, joining me now to discuss more on this, of course, is Sirandao, who is, of course, an executive board member of Migrant. But, of course, to know more about this, like I said, of course, we are joined. Sira, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us this morning to talk more on this. And I have to say hi to our viewers.
Thank you very much for having me.
Good. Now, of course, first, before we get deep into the course, discuss on. You understand that you have filed, of course, or you have sued the government of the Gambia and Ghana to the ECOWAS court. Yes. But tell us more about your network. That's the of course, the network of, should I say, extrajudicial killings and the enforcement of disappearances and all that. Tell us more about the network first before we get further.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm a member of ANACED, the African Network Against Extrajudicial Killings and Enforced Disappearances. Yeah. I'm an executive board member as well as the country rep in the Gambia here. Okay. The ANACED was put together to advocate for justice for victims.
When was it put together?
In Gambia, we were registered in 2018, so we're 2 years old, almost 2 years old.
Not long ago, by the way.
Not long ago. Yeah. Yes, not long ago. I mean, formally. Of course, before that, we are victims. The executive director that's founded the organization, and her name is Nana Jundao. She's the daughter of Sol Ndao. Sol Ndao was disappeared in 2013 by the Jammeh regime and later on summarily executed along with Mahama Cham, and that story has been around for a long time during the Jammeh regime, just like the other cases that we have known about regarding enforced disappearances and extrajudicial killings. So, of course, like I said, since he disappeared, we have been doing a lot of work trying to find him and trying to raise awareness about disappearances of him specifically and in general as well, the family coming together and working on that. Yeah. So in 2017, after Jammeh left, obviously that environment was not conducive during his time to do much on the ground. So most of the work we were doing was outside the Gambia.
Yeah, I was going to ask why, I mean, during that period, of course you said the environment wasn't conducive.
The environment was not conducive at that time for people to really be fighting on the ground and advocating, and we have seen those that have tried it. So of course you have to be, to be able to win, you have to survive. Yeah. So it made sense to as soon as he left, we wanted to make sure that we know more and know exactly what happened to him and others like him, and of course taking this as beyond ourselves and working with other victims as well.
Good. Now, before we talk about your latest move, that is, of course, like I said, taking the Gambia and the Ghanaian court to government to the courts. Now, what prompted your move of forming this network at the time, just by 2018, as you said? What was really the inspiration? Why do you feel the need to form such a network in fighting or seeking for justice?
Well, really, if you look at, we start with Gambia, and the TRRC has brought a lot of evidence on that. There's been a lot of disappearances and people that have been summarily executed. That is not okay, and that should not be okay in any way. Yes, there are a lot of CSOs around the country that are doing a lot of work all over, but there has not been any specific focus on those areas of violations, extrajudicial killings and enforced disappearances. And then if you look also regionally and also across the continent, Africa, that is one of the very, very problematic things that we have on our continent here, where governments and people disappear from their homes, people disappear from their work offices, people disappear on their way to work or on their way to home. So it's a problem in Africa, and impunity continues to prevail. They get away with it, and this is not something that anybody should get away. You cannot wake up one morning and your loved one disappears and you cannot say anything about it, and nobody can say anything about it.
Of course, it is 15 years down the line. Of course, we'll talk about that, but you say it's not okay, and you mentioned about, or you talk, of course, about the TRRC. What is that not okay with you? Because you had people that came before the TRRC, and of course, in one way or the other, accepted being part of this, whatever it has been, part of this, actions or acts. Now, why do you think it was, you could have waited until when the process and the TRRC, but you said it's not okay. What is it that not okay with you people? And
when I say it is not okay, what I mean is that it is not okay for government to keep disappearing people and killing them without anything happening. Before, I mean, the TRRC came after Yahya Jammeh, and we shouldn't wait until, we don't want to wait until something is done before we start taking action. Our action really is to try and make sure this is prevented. It doesn't happen in the first place. So yes, coming back to your question regarding the waiting until the TRRC, these people, imagine yourself in their positions. You've been waiting for 15 years, and there was no need to wait really. Yahya Jammeh was an individual, but the government, is the responsible party. Yes, he was the leader at that time. So we need to make sure that no one person can do things arbitrarily. So the government really should be strong enough that if something is like this is happening, it should be stopped. That's number one. So yeah, TRRC, we have waited 15 years. The DIC want me to wait another 15 years. But the first thing that we have to say is that, yes, the TRRC is ongoing, but there's nothing stopping the government from investigating further. There's nothing stopping them from going investigating further, and there's nothing also stopping the victims from seeking justice on their own way. They have a right to that.
Yeah, again, but then we're talking about the TRRC here, and of course one of the main reasons is justice to be served. Of course, victims to know what happened, of course, so that everybody would know what happened, as the revelations have indicated so far. Now, your actions also, probably don't you think it might maybe duplicate, or we might say you are all seeking for the same thing? The TRC are seeking for justice for the victims, but you also in the other way, despite you have waited for 15 years or so, and then you are also seeking for the same thing. What do you think of that? Well, don't you think it would have been ideal for you to wait until when the TRC exhaust or complete their work and see what would be the outcome, what recommendations or what position would the government take with the recommendations that will be submitted by the Commission?
Yes. So the TRRC, we need to clarify, the TRRC is not a judicial body.
Yeah, indeed.
It's a truth commission. Yeah. Its job is to seek the truth and get the facts from witnesses, from victims, from perpetrators, put them together and make recommendations to the government. And the key word here is recommendation. Yes. They are just making a recommendation. They have no power, absolutely, when it comes to those recommendations being implemented. The recommendations are non-binding, and that's according to the law. Non-binding means that whatever they recommend may or may not be implemented. So it's up to the government now to put that in place. So you have to have a very serious and committed government that would now push this forward, the agenda forward, and prosecute the people that are found culpable for these crimes. Now, truth commissions are not new in the world. Gambia is not the first place to have truth commissions. We have seen truth commissions in a lot of, unfortunately, I would say, in a lot of places, in Africa in particular. In West Africa, we've seen Liberia, we've seen Sierra Leone. The recommendations of the TRRC, their truth commissions are still on the shelf after decades. And that is not justice. Because those victims have been denied justice for years. Some of them have passed away. Their family members have even passed away. So really, we don't have confidence in that is one of the things, we don't have confidence in that. The other aspect also is, like I said, the TRRC is just one mechanism when it comes to the transitional justice process. We have criminal prosecutions, and anybody can file a case. And the other thing that is very important is that the government does not need the facts from the TRRC to prosecute and to investigate these cases. They have had information since 2005. You don't investigate because you're waiting for more information, but they had all the information that they needed to pursue and to push forward an investigation if they had the will to do that. Yeah, but part of the investigation also is done by the TRC is the same killings of these migrants that you were saying. But then if government acts now, probably what do you think of the recommendations that will come from the TRC then, if that should be the case? But you may well answer that. But also I may want to ask also at the same time, is that, considering what happened in other recommendations by other TRCs, like you said, it's not the first time it's happening in Africa. Are you moving fast forward to send a signal to the government that, listen, we know, of course, recommendations would come from the TRC, and of course, come what may, you should act upon it? Yes, absolutely. We are pushing the government that they should act, and the process really should be balanced. It should not be just one, it should not be just linear, where you just do one thing after the other. It should be balanced, and there is no reason why the other, like the security sector reforms are ongoing, and the TRRC is ongoing, and still looking into facts of what happened in the security sector. They are still ongoing. Criminal prosecution is part of one of the mechanisms that the Gambia has chosen to adopt in the National Transitional Justice Strategy. So really, there is no need, and there is nowhere it says that the TRRC everything should stop until the TRRC is finished. And so yes, if the migrants being, the government being sued to investigate. So what we are, just to clarify, what we are asking the government to do is to make sure that they do further investigations to bring these people to justice. We're not asking them to take them to court, the perpetrators. So these perpetrators, one of the things also that we have to highlight is that even if they're prosecuted for the crime, for these crimes or with the migrants, they were involved in many other crimes. So the TRRC recommending them for, I'm hoping that TRRC would recommend them for the other crimes that they have committed. We had the junglers were not hundreds of them or thousands of them, they're just a few. And taking them to court should not be a problem. There are a few people that were involved in a lot of crimes. So taking them to court for one crime, it should not affect the TRRC. And you know, again, like I pointed out in the beginning, the victims have the right to take matters go to court, and they have the means, the mechanisms to do that. So we are using the international instrument, which the Gambia is a signatory to, which is the ECOWAS Community Court of Justice, and taking the government of the Gambia and the government of Ghana, because they all had ample information at that time to investigate further.
Good. Now talking about that, I mean, of course, the government of the Gambia and Ghana, and of course, and the migrants, of course, and in general here, that we have migrants that are involved in this from the 2 countries or more. Of course, you have others also understand from other West African countries. Now, from your own perspective or view, of course, as a network, do you see the political will and commitment from these governments? Of course, now you have sued the government of the Gambia and Ghana, and we will, of course, know what you are demanding. But do you see the political will that they want to, you know, help or make sure that justice prevails for the victims in this, you know, in these extra disappearances and killings that happen?
The reason that we are supporting these victims, so just to clarify, Anake did not sue. We are supporting 2 families that are taking the governments to court. One in the to the government of Ghana and to the government of the Gambia.
Good.
So the reason that we are supporting them is that because we don't see the political will, because they had the information in 2005, in 2008, in 2005, Human Rights Watch and Trial International did an investigation, and they provided information. The information has been available. We have had bylaw on Freedom newspaper and all this on the media. All this information has been out there for a long time.
Do you trying to find out why not the commitment from the government?
Trying to find out why not the commitment from the government.
Yeah, why not? I mean, that commitment, that political will to make sure that justice prevails.
I mean, Anake has not been has not been the only organization that has been advocating for this. We have civil society in Gambia and family members in Gambia, in Ghana, and in all these countries that have been advocating and pushing the governments to come. When the report came out, in 2008, 2009, what they did when the report came out, when they did investigations from the UN and ECOWAS team, was to just the government of the Gambia gave $500,000 to victims of Ghana as a token. And that is not the right way to do things. There are laws and there are ways. These victims have a right to redress, have a right to remedies for them, for the pain and suffering that they have done. They have a right to information. Some of them are simply just want to know what happened to their family members.
Okay.
That's all they want to know. And the government has a responsibility to investigate and tell them that this is what happened to your family member. Only 8 bodies were found and were returned to Ghana. When they went there, they found that 2 of them were not actually Ghanaians. All the other 44 people, Ghanaians, family members, all the other people, over 30 of them, still don't know what happened to their loved ones and don't have bodies.
Yeah, if my memories could serve me well, also in the Gambia, the Ghana Commission, you know, at some point revealed that the Gambia government, you know, at the time, you know, engaged the Ghanaian government, and redress was done. You know, families were given something, and in a way that they could maybe, you know, on the, you know, on the process, or should I say on the losing of their loved ones. And if this happened, then again, at the same time now the families are suing the Ghanaian government. How would you explain this to our viewers to understand?
So the redress that was done was the Ghana government and the Gambia government, they got together and signed an MOU, the 2 of them, without consulting anybody.
Oh,
there are laws. There are laws, local laws, national laws, and international laws on how this thing should proceed. We're talking about justice here. We're not talking about, you know, something that you just talk about in the corner and come back. We're talking about justice, and we're talking about lives. It should not be that easy that when something that this happens, one of them just decided that, oh yes, we'll just give $500,000 and it should be okay for the family members to move on. So that is what happened in that. So it was not redress at that time, really.
Yeah, okay.
It was just the government sitting together without consultation, without due process. And that is the key thing here. You have to go through the process that the law prescribes. You're a government. A government should not be doing things behind closed doors. A government should do things
be an open secret.
It should be open and done the right way. And people have to feel that their pain has been recognized and their cries are heard, and that the due process is done for them to start healing.
All right. Now, let's talk about the case filed by the two families against the Gambia government and the Ghana's government, of which you are supporting the families. Again, what are they demanding from the courts? You talk about redress and what else now? They want to know what happened beyond that. Is there anything else that they're demanding from the courts? These two governments?
Yes, they're demanding that the government set up a proper investigation, as has been recommended by several investigators. The UN mechanisms council, Human Rights Council has recommended that they need to do the proper investigation that they done, and that's all simply what they're asking for. They're asking for investigations to be done properly, give them the information that they need for their family, the loved one that have disappeared. We had in the TRRC when the junglers testified that their bodies were caught up and thrown all over the place. Where are their bodies? Where are the other people? Where are they buried? And you know, in Africa, burial is a big part of our lives. Taking your family members, we see it in Gambia. Even if you die in the furthest place, we try to bring you home and give you a decent burial. In Ghana, their culture is even stronger when it comes to burial. They believe that your loved one, their soul doesn't rest until you bury them. Imagine these people 15 years and they're believing that the soul of their departed loved ones is still out there and nothing is happening to them. They want, some of them simply want the bodies of their loved ones where it is located and to be brought back to them, and they give them a proper burial.
Are they also seeking that, you know, when investigations are done, the perpetrators be brought to book?
Of course.
To, you know, let them be. Yeah.
Of course, that's the ultimate goal. The investigation is the first step. You cannot bring in, because there are laws in this world.
Yeah.
So we cannot ask them to just come and, because they have you know, testified and we have some information, you should just take them to court. You have to do a proper
but then
investigation.
revelations has happened at the TRC. Yes. Of course, we also have other, you know, as you know, people were there, and the TRC Act and other, and other, you know, investigations that are done by other organizations. How about that? Are those not enough evidences, probably,
for somebody
to take legal action against the perpetrators?
For the government to take them to action, they need to come up with the investigation. They need to do the investigation and provide the evidence. The TRRC, like again, to go back to what I said, it's not a judicial body.
Yeah.
The information from there cannot be used to just take people to court from that. So the government has the responsibility to investigate, come up with the evidences, and say, we found you guilty of this crime, and we are taking you to court. So the investigation, so what we are saying is that they have enough information to initiate, for the government to initiate a proper investigation, an investigation that would lead them, the government, into taking action, which they have a responsibility to do as a state.
Yeah, again, you know, as you may know, that also the TRC Act says the things that you say may not be, you know, taken against you. But then, how do you balance these two also, comparing to what you are seeking and what the TRC?
Well, they're not in contradiction. When the TRC finds that there's enough information that they have to recommend that these people be prosecuted, they're not going to take them to court immediately. Again, like you said, the information that is there cannot be used against them.
Yeah.
So now you have to do your own investigations. You cannot just take that and say yes and everything. So they have to do their own investigation, regardless of what comes out of the TRRC. The TRRC is their recommendation of prosecution is going to lead to further investigation, proper you know, investigation that goes by the process, goes through the process that that our country has set for things to happen, due process to happen, and that is what should be that is how it should be going.
All right. Now, coming back to what you are seeking from the ECOWAS courts, and normally these international courts, when they're dealing with such kind of issues, it takes years, if not months or years, and so on. Exactly. Unfortunately, like you said. So, how soon do you think this thing? You expect verdict to be served or to be done with regards to what this family are seeking? Because of course, especially what your own network or organization is expecting or supporting this family.
Well, the courts of the courts of law are not institutions that you just go today, you go in the door and you come out the next day, because they have a lot of cases.
I asked it because you waited for the families waited for 15 years. And probably also it might take some more years before you could hear anything about this.
So we waited for 15 years without anything happening.
Yeah.
So now the difference is that something is happening.
Okay.
And the process has started. So they've been waiting all these years for a process to start. The difference is that now a process has started, and you know that you're going somewhere. So sitting at home and not, being staying in the house and not going anywhere can be very frustrating. But once you say, okay, and you're supposed to be on a journey, but once you leave the house and take a step, you now know that, yes, I am heading somewhere. So that's a big deal for the victims. It now starts them, okay, I am in the process of, going to where I want to be, which is finding what happened to my loved one, give them a decent burial, and holding the people that have done this to us accountable. So that is the difference. Waiting for 15 years with nothing happening, and right now, the process actually starting, and you know that you are on the journey.
Exactly. Now, you're supporting this family on this process. Of course, you also talked about other victims that were also victimized during all these 22 years that allegedly people have been talking about. Now, are you prepared to also support other families in case any victim's family want to take a legal action against the government? And of course, because we have had revelations on the TRC, people, of course, who has in one way or the other said they participated in extrajudicial killings of family members of who's also demanding for justice in case the process also take longer than they think or they want. Would you support the process of those families also? Are you prepared for that?
Well, this is not our first litigation against the government of the Gambia. These are the third and fourth. We had the executive director has taken the Gambia government to court for failure to investigate in the disappearance of her father, Solndao. We also supported the family of Mahawa Cham also to the Commonwealth Court of Justice. That's also, those two cases are ongoing. We understand that the process takes a while, and we work with, so we take a holistic approach. We don't just say take it to court and sit. So we take a holistic approach in the sense that before we go anywhere, we take our time and we work on counseling the victims and the families to make them understand that the process cannot be overnight. And we also work on providing them with psychosocial support so that they're able to deal with all these things and are able to manage the traumas and the triggering and all of these things that can come with it. When you're having to go to court, it's a very traumatizing experience. When there's a hearing and hearing dates keep being delayed sometimes, those are things that are very traumatizing. So we take a holistic approach. We have put together these systems. We are in constant contact with them, explaining to them what is happening, and be at the liaison, and we try to give them all the information that they need to manage their emotions and to manage what is happening in their lives and the expectations as well. So that is one of the things that we do. Taking on orders, of course, we just started not too long ago. Taking on orders, that's our mandate, supporting people in litigation. That's something that we gave ourselves a mandate for when we set up Anaket. That would depend on our capacity. Of course, we cannot take out 100 people, 1,000, there's a lot of people. So that would depend on our capacity. And as far as our capacity can handle it, we are prepared to support people in seeking justice, whether it is through the courts or whether it is any other means.
Okay, talking about Anaket, you're of course a board member, but also a country rep.
Yes.
Now, how's been your relationship? Of course, we are talking about the victims here. For example, the Victim Center, and of course the Janet Commissions, the TRC, this organization. How closely do you work with them in their efforts for justice for victims in this country, and of course beyond in other countries as well?
Yeah, I mean, with the Victim Center, obviously as victims ourselves, because Solndao that was disappeared is my uncle, my dad's younger brother. other. So as victims, we are registered. My family is registered with the Victim Center, and we've been working with them from day one, being part of the process. And in our work that we do as ANACED, when we registered, we made sure that we introduce ourselves and the work that we do. And the victims that we work with are also registered with the Victim Center, and we collaborate and are in constant communication with them in the things that we're doing, with the work that we are doing, and where there's a need for collaborations and for them to come on board, or for us to participate in their activities, we do. And it's not just the Victim Center or the civil society organizations that are working along the same path of civil society organization. When it comes to the commissions, those are government bodies that we follow. With the TRRC, with the Secretariat, we have a great relationship with the Secretariat. One of the projects that we have is called the TRRC Digest, where what we do is we summarize the testimonies of all the victims that appear at the TRRC and publish them by session. Every session, when it's completed, we summarize those, and then we translate those summaries into local languages, Mandinka, Wolof, Fula, and Jola, and those are disseminated in the community radios around the country to make sure that the information is out there. So we are doing what we can to extend the work of the TRRC to make sure that they're reaching, expanding the capacity, working together as like I said, a holistic approach, and as a nation. Everybody has a responsibility, so we are taking that on to make sure that where there may be gaps in the transitional justice process, if we can come in and put together a project to extend it there, we come on board.
All right, now, of course, time is not on our side now, and of course, I wanted us to, you to tell us briefly about the challenges that you face. But then, again, you talked about your close relationship with the Victim Center. Of course, you said you are part of it. But what would be your response to someone that might be watching and said, listen, of course, it might well good that you are seeking for justice, but probably it would have been better, for somebody who's an independent person to seek for justice for victims like you, but being part of something and at the same time taking an action means you are seeking justice for yourself, and of course, now that you are part of the network, how would you justify your position in this whole process that you are trying to fight for?
Well, every victim has a right to seek for justice for themselves through the right ways, and that's what we are doing. We're going through taking the proper process to make sure that we are asking our government we're holding our government accountable for the responsibility that they have over us. As a state, they have a responsibility over me. If I have a grievance, where do I take it to? To my government, and that's what I'm doing. So there is nothing wrong with that. And for people, people have different perspectives, people have different needs.
Yes.
So some people, they don't want anything. They have forgiven and they have closing and their healing process has started and is going. So they are different people, and everybody should be allowed to express themselves and to follow through legal means of process. Do things as long as you're doing it the right way and you're doing it legally. We're not doing anything illegal. We're not doing anything bad. So we have to appreciate that there are different mechanisms, and they don't work, not all mechanisms work for everybody. So you take what works for you, and what works for somebody else, you support them. That's what we expect people to do, and not to say something like that, because yes, you are comfortable, you are okay with waiting until the TRRC, but somebody else may not be, and we have to recognize and appreciate that.
All right. Just finally now, of course, what are some of the challenges that you face as a country, right? And I know probably it might have been somehow tough, but then you tell us, how was it like for you in working out these processes during this time, from the formation of this network to now, from 2018 to date? How has been the situation for you?
The situation has been, it's always challenging when you are in something like this, when you're talking about, and especially as victims ourselves and working with other victims. It's a very emotionally tasking work to do, because you are doing something that, for the most part, when people talk about their own pains, it reminds you and triggers your own pain. So that is very challenging. One of the other challenges we are facing in one of the cases that we filed against the government of the Gambia is, the justice being delayed, in our opinion, because when there's a hearing, we've had several delays by the Gambia government at the ECOWAS Court of Justice when the cases are supposed to be heard. And to us, that is justice being delayed. And again, as like they say, justice delayed is justice denied. And that is not something that is one challenge that we have. So we would have loved to have the process go smoother and faster, but
all right.
It is what it is.
As a victim, again, just finally, we end with matters of the TRC also, and then you victim, like you said. At some extent, there has been some debate around town as to what would happen when recommendations are, submitted to government after the conclusion of this work by the TRC, and we're expecting the next coming months or so, by mid next year, they should be concluding their work. What are your expectations? What are you looking forward to? Because many are not, really expecting the practical will to be there to implement the recommendation, considering what happened in other commissions, the Joint Commission and the like, and of course, of recent, the draft constitution and so on. So how do you feel about this moving forward?
Well, our expectation, like everybody else, is that the government will take on the recommendations and move with it and do what the TRRC has.
So you are confident that...
No, that's our expectation.
Okay.
However, like you said, not just ANACED, but you've mentioned it, that a lot of people, civil society, individual Gambians, don't have the confidence that when the report comes out, much will be done about it, and would be done about it expeditiously. We're in an election, 2021 is an election year.
Indeed.
So, there are several factors. Even a genuine government can get distracted and derailed, especially when you're talking about a country like Gambia, which has so many priorities. So managing all those priorities can be a challenge for any nation, especially we in a nation where we're coming. Unfortunately, we are seeing some of the signs from the Yaya Jammeh regime of suppression in terms of information, in terms of freedom of speech happening still.
Oh, really?
So we don't have confidence. Yes, we don't have confidence in the government at this point that when the recommendations come, they will give it the priority that it deserves. Being an election year.
At this point, do you want to see more from government?
Yes, we want to see more from government. And again, the TRRC, like we keep saying, is not the only mechanism and should not be the only channel that government is forcing people to go by and wait. They have other options. There are other options that they can take up and they should take up. So that's what we are. That's what we would want them to see. Again, the confidence level when it comes to political will is quite low. I would have to say from our side that the government, when the recommendations come, they will do something about it. It's a lot of things that can come, and we haven't seen the will being exercised so far.
Well, probably that could be the best way, the best way, of course, to end this program, and of course discussion with Siranda, who is an executive board member of ANACED, and we want to say thank you very much for coming, and we just like to say your final words to our viewers.
Well, thank you very much for having us. Our final word is really that we need to support a holistic approach to our 22 years of dictatorship to achieve the never again. We cannot push everything through reconciliations and forgiveness. Accountability has to happen. Otherwise, it will come back and haunt us.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Sira, once again for joining us this morning. And of course, we were talking about the West African migrants, as you heard from her there. They have supported two families that have taken a legal action against the Gambian government and the Ghanaian government to the ECOWAS court. Of course, as we wait for the outcome of whatever will happen. For the meantime, we say thank you very much for being with us, and we will just take a short break. When we come back, we bring you the newspaper review. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Public notice: abusive language on radio stations. The Public Utilities Regulatory Authority, PURA, has notes with significant concern the proliferation of abusive, uncouth and incendiary language on some radio stations in the country. Whilst the authority has continually advocated for the development of a free, independent and democratic media space, certain actions will not be tolerated. The authority, in its drive to ensure media plurality, welcomes interactive radio programming in the form of call-ins and online loops. These platforms, however, are degenerating into platforms for abuse through the constant use of insults and unsavory language antithetical to the cultural norms and values of Gambian society. In addition, it has come to the attention of the authority that some stations are playing uncensored music with graphic language using peak daytime hours especially. Broadcasters are hereby requested to actively moderate call-ins and live programs. Section 238, subsection 1 of the IC Act 2009 requires licensees to store sound and video recordings of all programs for a period of 3 months. The authorities shall conduct moderating visits in this regard to all licensees to ensure adherence to these provisions. As a final note of caution, all radio station owners are hereby warned to devise programming as per the tenets of the IC Act, individual radio station license, and the Broadcasting Code of Conduct. Failure to do so shall result in enforcement action against default licensees as per the provisions of the PIGRA Act, IC Act, and relevant broadcasting regulations. Whilst the authority remains resolved to actively monitor the content of all broadcasting stations, the general public is also urged to report any instances of the use of abusive and foul language on any broadcast platform by calling the authority's toll-free line 148 free of charge. Compliance by all broadcast providers is expected. PURA, working towards equity in development through professionalism and partnership.
Jeff, thank you very much. We are back finally, for the final part of the program, that is the newspaper review. And we must say thank you very much to our proud sponsors, Star GSM, for empowering this part of the program, that is the newspaper review. And as you have just seen from that advert there, for whatever you may need with regards to mobile phones, satellites and receivers and all that, you can easily go and visit their different places within and around the Greater Banjul area. For you can get that very, very conveniently. And thank you very much. But now joining me for the newspaper review is Sohna Tunkara. Sohna, good morning.
Good morning, Amadou, and
how do you do?
I'm fine.
Off the mic, she's a trouble, like seriously. But that's another thing. But for now, what do you have for us?
So I have 2 newspapers today, and on the Point newspaper, on their front page, you have Senegal grapples with a mysterious disease, and you have Gambia and Ghana government face legal battle as families of West African migrants seek justice, and it's just from having a discussion with one of the ANACED board members. Right. And of course, you have 2006 coup attempt, marabouts assured Jammeh's downfall, and you have 14 million counterfeit cars seized in Senegal. Okay. So we're just going to explore on Senegal grapples with a mysterious disease and see what it entails.
Yes, we look at that quickly.
Yeah, we will look at that quickly and see exactly where it is.
You have to turn out the pages quickly so we can get the stories. But then, yeah, of course, I wanted her to first tell us, but just quickly, Sophia Kene.
It's here already.
Yeah, okay, definitely.
So
this is a very serious thing anyway.
It's serious, and it says Senegal is pointing fingers at ship believed to be carrying toxic products as mysterious disease manifested in the country. It has affected nearly 700 people so far as the country equally battles with coronavirus disease, a pandemic that has affected every corner of the world.
Yeah, li pour ñu wax ko rek ci gàttal mooy feebar bi nga xamante gis nga feebar bu doy waar la nappkat yi ñu dem si géej bi di nappa ñoom la li dal di jékki-jékki rek téye foofu si Sénégal soo mu nekk li nga xamante ne mooy feebar bu métti la comme ni ngeen ko gisee soo ñu ngee ñaan daal kilifa yi tamit nañ teel a bàyyi xel xam ne diggante Gambie ak Sénégal dañ jege ñaañe te tamit suñ nappakat yi dañuy dugg ci ndox bi dem tase ak sénégalais yi soo ñu bàyyi xel daal feebar bi mu ngi Sénégal te mu ngi garaaw gars yi bàyyi ci xel bu baax a baax loolu lañ bëgg a wax ci yëf yi soo leen toppee xibaar yi foofu Sénégal depuis barki démba ba démba yëpp loolu lay nekk di wax te seen kilifa yi commencé na jël ay measures.
feebar bi mu ngi am doole
because
mu ngi téye like 700 people
ay 12 nit la commencé within 48 hours it rise to 400 people. Now we are talking about 700 people. So that say dafa gaaw. So ñu bàyyi ci xel.
Let them have a cure for it before it gets
definitely.
out of hand.
Yeah, so that's
We're
it.
still grappling with the coronavirus. We are not ready to be faced with another mysterious disease
It's unfortunate.
or virus again.
Yeah.
So on the standard, we have NAM, Qantas, Barrow on road funding comments, and you have GDC KAU chairman denies joining NPP. Also have Minister of Youth and Sport decries lack of access to sports levies, and you have Lebanese Gambian community organized COVID-19 treatment centers. And on the front page, you have families of migrants killed on the Jammeh, so Gambia and Ghana. And all the newspapers right now are talking about that lawsuit.
That's the dominant story of the day.
Yeah. But we will look at the GDC KAU chairman denying that he did not join NPP, and it's read, the Gambia Democratic Congress Lower Salem constituency chairman has denied joining the National People's Party with hundreds of other party supporters. One more Gay and 500 others identified as GDC supporters were paraded over President Adama Barrow at KAU during the foundation stone laying of a road project. Gay was described as the GDC chairman in Lower Salem, but in a Standard exclusive yesterday with Standard newspaper, which I believe, Efiris Ibrahim Bereche said he has not and will never join the NPP.
Politics, 2021 calling. So we wouldn't say much about that. So that's the message. GDC once again denying that their chairman have joined NPP.
And with other 500 members as well.
And I think it was just yesterday or day before that we had one of the GDC NAM also denying that he is joining NPP. So interesting. Yeah.
Election is approaching, so
you expect more of this.
We're expecting of more interesting things from political
by the way,
parties.
I got a message from the APRC spokesperson who are also welcoming another former member, if I put it from the GMC.
To APRC.
To APRC.
Interesting.
So
we forge ahead. You have Minister of Youth and Sport decries lack of access to sports levy, and the story reads, the Minister of Youth and Sport yesterday explained that his ministry has little access to funds generated under the sports levy, funds raised from call termination fees by GSM companies to support development initiative in his ministry. The government introduced the levy in 2019 and is expected to raise hundreds of millions from the telecommunication sectors to finance the least funded sector of the economy, youth and sports. So that was on the Standard newspaper.
Bakari Baji, or Bakari Baji, the Honorable Minister there, decrying of lack of access to sport levy. You see, this is one of the things that we expect him to work on, so that these monies can come into sports and support the sporting associations. I think one of the reasons, or should I say the main reason why this sport levy was, developed or, designed is to help sports develop financially, or develop, should I say, but financially supported to develop in the country, because sporting associations, I wouldn't say struggle, but crawl to get funding in this country.
And it is very important as well when they are estimating the 2021 budget, they pay into consideration that the Minister of Youth and Sports should be well funded, because it is very important. They are dealing with youths, but youths in the country have a greater role to play.
It might interest you to know or to say that the sport ministry is among the least.
Yeah, their budget is not encouraging.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we are talking about 65% of the Gambian population are youth. So that's something. That's the problem. But this sport levy could have helped in supporting sporting and the youth activities in this country.
For sure.
But now that Minister saying accessing those monies is becoming a problem, that's something else. Is that all of you have for us?
Yeah, that was all on the two newspapers that I have with me today.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you.
Thank you. Happy weekend.
Same to you, and happy weekend to all our viewers.
And stay safe. Be in order, and
you're here in Berlin, right?
Thank you very much. That's Sohna Tunkara, and of course, thank you very much to all of you, and of course for those that have also been reaching out to me. Guy gëj nañ ma gis Amadou lu xew may leen fresh call bi moo ma téye woon, but thank God with your prayers and supports I am happily back, and I hope next week I'll be much stronger, inshallah, and better. so that together we can roll it out in this platform and other platforms as well, as always we do right here on iAfrica TV. But many thanks once again to Sona Tunkra for the newspaper review, and of course before her, then also to Sirandao, of course of the Anaket member there, where we discuss about some very interesting issues. Well, viewers, that's all we have for you for today and indeed for the week, and we will be back next week Monday inshallah for another edition of the of course Good Morning Africa right here on Africa TV. Until then, stay safe and do have a very pleasant weekend. Well, mbokk yi jërë ngeen jëfati fii la ñu amande ak yéen tey ci jotaay bi ba ci next week Monday ñu dellusiwaat ci beneen jotaay Good Morning Africa comme ni ñu koy baaxoo di defee di leen jaajëfal bu baax kon ni ma ko waxee ci yéen yi nga xamante ne ñu ngi doon seet lu xew ak yu mel noonu waaye sant yàlla ñu ngi leen di gërëm bu baax ci loolu ba next week Monday jërë ngeen jëf beneen yoon di leen wax Juma Mubarak.